Mickey Dickey here, and I wanted to give an update on the Microsoft Activision being blocked by the CMA today. And I've got a couple of videos I want to show you, and then I'll give you my opinion on what's going on here.
And such a combination would substantially reduce competition in this new cloud gaming market. Both companies say they'll appeal that decision. Activision stating, quote, the UK is clearly closed for business. David, and then Brad Smith with a strongly worded statement of his own.
Yeah, they can say what they want at Microsoft and Activision. Activision is being good here in terms of making sure it's going to secure its $3 billion breakup fee. And so it is being a very true partner here by saying a lot of things as well and going along with this idea of appealing the CMA decision. When the CMA originally came out a couple of months back, remember, it was early February with a very negative potential review here. It looked like they were going to say no because they were also looking at the console market, and we said the deal was mostly dead. Then they reversed themselves and said, nope, we're okay with the console. We're just looking at cloud. And the market rallied, and everybody said, and we included, said, this thing's no longer mostly dead. It looks very much alive. Well, now you're much closer to all dead. The likelihood of an appeal here of the CMA's decision is exceedingly slim, something I tweeted earlier. You can take a look at past efforts there. They won't get there most likely, and certainly not within any sort of time frame that anybody would care about. It could take as long as a year. There is no statutory timeline for review. They have to make that appeal within 4 weeks. They say they're going to do it. That's fine. And then the average review period, again, this is UBS, which took a look at this, is 5.5 months. Some have gone as long as a year, but none over the last few years have been successful. Not one appeal has been successful. And so, guys, it does look highly unlikely that Microsoft and Activision will prevail here, even though there are many who say, what are they doing in the UK? They're basing this on a market that doesn't even fully exist at this point. So their conclusion about it being the most powerful operator in a fast-developing market for cloud gaming, yeah, but it hasn't even developed yet. How can you go there? But it puts them in line, Jim, with our own FTC in many ways.
Mention that because the FTC, Leonard Cotton, he wrote a seminal article, the Law Review article, about how, I know this is going to sound very communist.
Okay, so when we start going down the communist road, again, this is the UK, and it is their opinion on what they're doing. Now, I want to make a couple of points. The first is that Microsoft is not going to die if they don't buy Activision. And Activision is not going to die or file bankruptcy without Microsoft buying them. That's not how this started. Has nothing to do with the end result. Activision can be better off. The whole point of it was they were going to get a premium by being bought by Microsoft, and Microsoft wanted what they have for their future. Now, Activision is going to get a $3 billion payday if Microsoft does not end up buying them. Okay. Now, as you can see on the screen here, at one point there during this morning, they were down 8.9% because they're not being bought by Microsoft. Okay. The question is, why is that? Now, in addition, Microsoft is actually up. Now, I want to go through a couple other videos here and give you some more opinions, and then I'll give you my final opinion once we've got a few of these more videos. So
you should listen to on it, because I'm wrong. I've been wrong the whole time and not owning it. But the problem for me, is that it trades at 27 times next year's earnings. So when Joe says they need a reacceleration, they need a reacceleration everywhere, because they need significantly strong enough earnings growth, I think, to support such a big multiple. And I don't know where else are they going to get it from? I think, yeah, they do need it. I think this is something where, ask everyone else on the panel. One of the things I've been struggling with a lot is the idea of having an edge, right? Kerry has an edge in Microsoft. You guys have an edge in this. I don't. I look for companies with really high free cash flow yields that are fairly valued. So I look at Microsoft and all I do is say, hey, I've missed it. I've been wrong.
That forward P is even higher with the gain today. It's 30 or so.
Right.
But that aside, is that the right number? Do we look at that number and say the 5-year average forward PE is 35?
Okay. So here's the thing, and it continues to irk me when these guys get on here and talk about it. They've been talking down from Microsoft, and if you've seen my other videos, you've heard me continue to say this over and over and over again. One of her questions was, where is Microsoft going to get its growth? Seriously? It's Microsoft, for heaven's sakes. Everything we do, every single day, has something to do with Microsoft. Every computer we turn on, for the vast majority of us, it's all Microsoft. Where is the growth going to come from? We continue to add more companies. We continue to add more people. We continue to add more computers. And again, maybe the growth has slowed a little bit, but again, it's Microsoft. It's not going away. They don't need Activision tomorrow for the growth over the next year or 6 months or 10. I'm sorry, they just don't. They're buying Activision for the future of gaming, which is probably 5 to 10 years from now. So when we start talking about the fact that they don't have this, where are they going to get their growth from? Let's be real. It's not going to, again, even if they bought it tomorrow, it's not going to affect their numbers in the next quarter. And yet we just don't have a clue what we're talking about on this. And they're talking about the PE ratio, the forward PE being 30. And again, you're saying, where's the growth going to come from? And yet you've got Visa comes out today, and we're on the precipice of having another recession, so to speak. But Visa has a 35 PE. So which one would you rather have for growth potential down the road, Microsoft or Visa? Again, I'm just having a very difficult time understanding where they're coming at from this. So here's my third video.
UK regulators blocking Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Steve Kovac joins us right now. He's got the latest on this.
Yeah, this is a wild one. So CMA rejecting the deal and making the argument that it would give Microsoft an unfair advantage in cloud gaming if it was allowed to buy Activision. And this is surprising because just several weeks ago, CMA dropped a huge part of its argument against the deal that focused on the console gaming market. Now the argument from the CMA is Microsoft has a dominant share in cloud gaming today, plus the cloud infrastructure needed to run it. It's unique in that position, they're saying. Now, owning Activision content like Call of Duty will give Microsoft an unfair position in cloud gaming, the CMA says. And Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, saying in a statement, Microsoft's going to appeal. It's unclear how long that will take, but we know that the CMA is likely just to say no again. Now, what we really need to know is this is not how Microsoft wanted it to go. They were actually prepared to accept some conditions from the CMA after making other deals to appease regulators across the world, like guaranteeing Nintendo it can get a Call of Duty games for a decade and this NVIDIA cloud gaming deal. Meantime, the EU going to decide next month on the deal, and we're still working through that FTC lawsuit. Who knows how that's going to go now. But if Microsoft can't win the appeal, the deal will likely die. $3 billion break fee, guys.
We were just talking to Francis D'Souza, who is familiar with the CMA. At Illumina, they actually walked away from the deal before because of concerns that
right.
It's tough to appeal. You're just appealing to the same people.
Right.
Maybe it's worth parsing what Brad Smith said. He said, we remain committed to reinforcing these agreements through regulatory remedies. So maybe the plan is to go back to the CMA and say, we're going to offer up even more.
This is what they've been doing the whole time, though. They've been preempting all these.
But is there anything else that they can offer?
I don't know. I don't know what the concern is because, look, Microsoft, yes, they are the dominant in cloud gaming, but it's such a small piece of the gaming market.
So again, what we're talking about here is that the big winner here is actually Sony. Microsoft does have a big piece of this cloud gaming, but the cloud is so small at the moment. And again, maybe they're just looking so far down the road that they're just ignoring all the other facts. But the bigger question is, what is this going to do with each of these companies? Now, as you can see on here, Microsoft is up, and it's still up for the day. And the question is it up because of this deal? My personal opinion is it has really, literally nothing to do with this. And I've got some people that sit back and say, well, they don't have to pay the $70 billion or $69 billion for Activision. Nobody cares. I don't mean to say this in a negative way. It's already built in. So if anybody that's looking at Microsoft, they're going, okay, and it is Microsoft. So $69 billion is a big number for you and me, but Microsoft, it's really not. The reason Microsoft is up today, or at least the bulk of it, because last night, after it reported its earnings, it beat everything. And here's what my issue with all of these folks that continue to beat on Microsoft, that it's not going to be this. Where else are you going to put your money? And again, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but it literally, without Microsoft, we can't run our world. Without Apple, without a few of these companies, they're not going anywhere. And yes, maybe they're only going to go up 5%. And I said this last quarter when Microsoft's earnings came out and the stock dropped, because the only reason they could come up with last quarter is that they guided lightly and said they were only going to do 51 billion instead of 52, which is what the market wanted. I'm like, and again, hurt me. They're only going to make 51 billion. They came out and actually beat what the market wanted anyway. So again, who cares about the fact that they came in at 52 instead of 51 in the grand scheme of things? The reason Microsoft is up today is they beat earnings, and everybody was thinking they wouldn't. And they've been doing it for a year now. And at some point, when it is one of Microsoft, Apple, you take those guys out of the S&P, you take them out of the NASDAQ, you take them out of most mutual funds, they are the predominant parts of them. People are going to put their money into them. They're also going to put money in there because they are part of these mutual funds. There's no way that it's going to be a problem. So when Microsoft continues to win every single quarter, and they probably will, and even if they miss, like they said they missed last quarter, again, they didn't miss. They beat the top and they beat the bottom. They just didn't have the guidance that they wanted, which again, they already beat. Even when they miss it, they miss small. It's not like Microsoft's going away. Now, again, I'm not saying to buy it here. That's, again, not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that when everybody sits back and says that Microsoft at 70 is expensive, versus what? At some point, Microsoft was at $350 a share. And everybody goes back, well, that's when interest rates were at 1% instead of 5%. Microsoft's not built on interest rates, people. It's Microsoft, and its name is what it is. Now, Activision being down 10%, again, we can question whether or not Activision should be where it is or not. But again, it's not going bankrupt. It's a good run. It's a very well-run company. It has great products, and we'll be fine. So we'd have to take another look at Activision to see if this actually does fall out and they get to $3 billion. Where does that leave Activision? And again, I think that's another question for another day. And I'm probably in the boat where I would start looking at it that way, that it is not going to get bought by Microsoft and it is not going to end up being what we expected it. And okay, so the question is, if you own it, do you keep it? And do you think it's going to continue to go up, or do you move on to something else? So again, it depends on where you're at with it. But this is not a huge issue for either one of these companies. If you own it, then it becomes an issue. So you'll just have to ask yourself, do you think Activision is expensive at its price, and is Microsoft? And again, my personal opinion is it's not going to affect them long term. It is not a situation where Microsoft is going to sit here and go, boy, we can't grow now because we don't have Activision. They have a bunch of other things going on. They've got AI, they've got all these other issues. It's just not, to me, a major issue. So when you're looking at this, talk to your financial advisor, see if it's part of what needs to be part of your portfolio or not. Continue to look at your long-term investment strategy. This deal blocked, but I don't think Microsoft is up to date because of the block. I believe Microsoft is up to date because it continues to beat, and it continues to be one of the strongest names in the world. And given the fact China is still reopening and there's still a lot of room, I think there's a lot more growth coming on. And they've been pummeled on their PC side for a long period of time. And I think, if I remember right from last night's minutes and stuff that they were talking about, last quarter, the previous quarter, they were down like 40 some odd percent in PC. And this quarter, they were only down like 24%. So it looks like maybe the PC has dropped. And it's a very profitable section of their market. So if they can turn that around and actually have it go up, which, their comps are going to get better. So when you look at next year, or third and fourth quarters of this year, are going to be a lot easier for Microsoft as far as comparables. So when you start looking at the numbers and whether or not Microsoft continue to grow, keep that in mind. The comps for the second half of the year are easier than the first half. So that's my 2 cents worth. I don't think it's a major issue one way or the other. If it gets done, if it doesn't, I don't think it's going to affect either one of these stocks. But Activision's down it's down because of not being bought. But no one seems to be giving them anything for the $3 billion that they're going to make if it doesn't get done. Take that into consideration too. Dickie out.